I'm so excited to be here with everybody. I know a couple of you have already gone and cracked your code and gotten your code for the personality type. So I assume that the link went out. So feel free to go do that at any point. It's a complimentary thing. It's going to ask you for your email. That's just the way the system works. Let me share my slides with you. So this system that I teach, called B.A.N.K, is scientifically validated to predict buying behavior within 90 seconds or less. That's a whole day's worth of training on identifying personality styles without using any tools. And I've only got about an hour, hour and a half to talk to you guys today. So I'm not going to be able to give you everything, but I am going to give you as much as I possibly can. And I promise you that you are going to walk away with things that you can use today, tonight, immediately. Okay? Couple things about me. I have a 20 plus year career in the military. I herded rocket scientists around. So my job was to develop rockets, launch the rockets, develop satellites, operate the satellites once they were on orbit, big program and project management. When I decided I was done with that, I did some transition jobs. And in the course of those transition jobs, I took what I call the soul-sucking sales training. Anybody in the group ever taken sales training? Raise your hand. Yeah? Have you ever taken sales training that you walk out of and you're like gritting your teeth like, I can do this? Right? It just really, it hurts. Like it hurts. It's really hard to do. And I walked out of that job and I went, okay, I'm done working for other people. I'm not doing that anymore. And I know if I'm going to own my own business and do my own thing, I better figure out the sales thing. Because if I can't sell anything, I can't have a business. So I started taking sales training. And in the course of that adventure, I came across this system called B.A.N.K. Now, B.A.N.K is an acronym. It stands for Blueprint, Action, Nurturing, and Knowledge. Blueprint, Action, Nurturing, and Knowledge. Now, some of you are going to get a little frustrated with me because I'm going to repeat some things. And the reason I'm going to repeat some things multiple times is because we have to hear things 5 times before we remember them. We have to hear things 5 times before we remember them. Okay, you get the point, right? So some of the things, and I won't do it all the time immediately after, but you'll hear some things that I repeat multiple times because I want you to remember them. I want them to become part of your DNA when you're having a communication with somebody. A little bit about our founder and CEO, Sherry Tree. She has a almost 30-year track record now. I need to update my slide. Our system is in over 100 countries. We have over 150 licensed and certified coaches and trainers. And we are the #1 personality-based sales training system in the world. And we say that our system can increase your sales up to 300%. Now, how can that even be possible? Because for those of you that are in sales, you're like, really? Really? Okay, if you're closing 80% of your sales, I'm probably not going to increase your sales by 300% unless I get you talking to more people. But here's how it works. Each personality style wants to communicate most effectively in a certain way. We call that a language. So each personality style has its own language, okay? So if I spoke French, German, Spanish, and English, and I walked into a room and I'm speaking to somebody who is German, and I'm speaking to them in English, do they understand me very well? No. So if I'm a blueprint and I'm speaking blueprint language really clearly, but the person I'm talking to is in action, they're not hearing what I'm saying very well, right? So the important thing is to be able to transition between the languages depending on what set of values is the person prioritizing at that moment. In my community, we say a lot of times, oh, I'm a nurturer. Oh, I'm a knowledge. The reality is nobody is one. Nobody is just one. Everybody is all four. It's a matter of which one are you prioritizing at the moment. Okay. So 2 caveats that I like to give everybody about the system, right? No system is perfect, right? The system is not designed to be everything for everybody. When people start learning the system, they want to apply it to everything. They want B.A.N.K to answer all the personality questions, and B.A.N.K is not designed for that. So the first caveat I have for you is that B.A.N.K is for very specific instances. When you are first meeting somebody and when your relationship goes into crisis. When you're first meeting somebody and when your relationship goes into crisis. In between there, right? So when you're first meeting to somebody, you're in that introductory stage until you get to the point where you get to know, like, and trust. This is true of any relationship. Once you get to know, like, and trust, you start developing a relationship language. This is the exciting part where you're starting to build a communication system that suits the two of you. Ever finished somebody else's sentence? Ever had an inside joke? That's part of your relationship language. Now, when our relationship goes into crisis, what happens is that trust has been broken somehow. You don't understand me. You're not listening to me. At that point, it is important to again go back to what personality are they prioritizing right now? You have to go back to that so that you can reestablish trust, so that you can then actually talk about what's going on. They need to feel seen and heard in their language. So, first caveat, when you know somebody, when you're first meeting somebody and when the relationship goes into crisis, the rest of the time, just let it go and let the relationship language develop. Okay, let the B.A.N.K go, let the relationship language develop. Okay, the second caveat is, I know this is going to be a surprise for you, your personality type. So if you've already cracked your code and you know what you are, your personality type is not an excuse for bad behavior. You don't get to go, well, I'm an action, so you should. We don't do that. Think about who is the most important person in any communication you want to have. And I've got news for you, and some of you are going to be very hurt by this, but it's not you. If you want to disseminate information, emotions, convey communication in some way, you're not the most important person, the receiver is. The person that you're trying to connect with is the most important person. Okay, so your personality type is not an excuse for bad behavior. Those are my 2 caveats for the system. And what I want to talk to you about is unlocking the secret to ultra high performance and ultra high connection. Let's talk about some fairly depressing statistics here. In the sales community world, 67% of salespeople miss their quota. And that is whether they've given it to themselves or their company has given it to them. So for those of you that have a sales team, think about your sales team. And in general, on average, 67% of your team is probably missing their sales quota. 87% of your salespeople feel like they are not adequately prepared for their presentations. That's almost 90%. And it's not that they don't have the materials, and it's not that they don't feel like they understand their goods or systems or services that they're trying to sell. It's that they don't know how to have those conversations every time they walk into the room. If they walk into the room and they make that instant assessment of, oh, you're just like me, then it's really no problem. The problem comes in when they walk in the room and they go, I have no idea who this person is. They're nothing like me. That's when the problem happens. The last number that bothers me the most is this one. And that is that 66% of the people we talk to are turned off by our presentations. 66% of the people we talk to are turned off by our presentations. That's bad enough when it's business. It's devastating in our personal lives. It's devastating when it's in our personal lives. When we meet somebody for the first time and 66% of the people we talk to are turned off, that's a little disturbing. We got some help for that. Some of you may know Robert Kiyosaki or know who he is, but he says that the ability to sell is the #1 skill in business. Some of you guys said you had taken some sales training, so you might have heard this. And have you ever heard the saying, in order to get more no's, you have to get more, in order to get more yeses, you have to get more no's, right? You've heard that. And then have you also heard sales is a numbers game? Ever heard that one? Yeah. So one of the things I want to tell you is that this kind of sales training comes out of 2 books that were written in the 1920s. The 1920s. I'm pretty sure that our understanding of business and people and neurology and psychology has changed since the 1920s. So I want to encourage you to think about this. There might be something there, but there might be a better way to do things as well. What if there's just a way to get more yeses and not have to get more no's? And if it truly is a numbers game, then how does this become true? Do we think that top performing salespeople are talking to 85% more people than an average performer? That doesn't make any sense. In fact, my experience is that top performing salespeople are actually talking to fewer people. They're just closing a lot more sales. So it's not really a numbers game. It's not really a numbers game. And we get told sometimes that there's a secret to all of this, right? And the secret is that sales is not a numbers game. It's a people game. It's a people game. When I was first introduced to sales, what I was told was write your script, memorize it, go give it to 100 people a day. And oh, by the way, do that by knocking on doors. This was not that long ago. This was not that long ago. Okay. Why do we tell people to do that? Well, because if you talk to 100 people a day, 5 days a week for 3 months, you're going to talk to a lot of people. And if you don't figure out the people game in that amount of time, talking to that many people, then you're maybe not that smart. Or maybe you're not that people oriented. But if it's a people game, why can't we just learn people? Why do we have to go do it the hard way? Why isn't there an easier way to do that? And we think that it is possible for one idea to change the world and certainly to have an impact in sales. And we think that that idea is B.A.N.K. Now, B.A.N.K, our system, our company is called Codebreaker Technologies. We have a lot of things besides just teaching the B.A.N.K system. They all support doing B.A.N.K in sales, but we are personality-based, people-focused, and profit-driven. We've been featured in Inc., Forbes, Fox News, Entrepreneur, all of these wonderful news organizations. And let's talk a little bit about how the system got started. So Sherry Tree was in financial services, and her first year in financial services, she made about $700. And 5 years in, she was making about $72,000. The catch was she didn't get into financial services to only make $72,000. She bought the dream. She bought the dream. She wanted all of it. And what she was finding is that she was taking these personality classes and they were telling her a lot about herself, but they weren't telling her much about the people sitting across the table from her. And she was also taking all these sales classes, but they weren't helping that much either. So she came up with this, what if I reverse engineer the personality test? And instead of having something that tells me about me, it tells me about the person sitting across the table. And it does it in such a simple way that even in a high pressure sales environment, I can still rely on it. What do you get when you put an orange under pressure? You get orange juice. What do you get when you put a salesperson under pressure? No one knows. It could be anything coming out of their mouth. So you want something simple that salespeople can use no matter how stressed out they are about the situation. When Sherry started using this system, that first year, she went up to $500,000, a little over $500,000. We like to round it down. When she started teaching it to her sales team, within 3 years, she was up over $1 million. Then she started showing up on things like the Young, Restless, and Rich, where she was now making $2.9+ million. Sherry's been on stages with millionaires and billionaires. You might recognize some of these people. She's been asked to speak at Harvard University, so they have her come in about every 2 years to teach B.A.N.K to the latest group of CEOs that are coming through their training. There was a research psychologist at San Francisco State University who was like, really? Your system does that? And sure, I believe that, research psychologist. And so he and a couple of graduate students did some research on this and published a white paper and said, and an academic said this, B.A.N.K does predict buying behavior. Now, if you want the white paper, please shoot me an email or a text message or whatever. I'm happy to get you the white paper. We've made it pretty. It's no longer looks like an academic. We've added pictures in color. Okay, so B.A.N.K is the only methodology in the world that is scientifically validated to predict buying behavior in 90 seconds. We continue to do research on our system, and we do research on our system for specific career fields, specific industries. So we've actually researched how can you communicate most effectively in, for example, the real estate community using the B.A.N.K system. What's the most effective way to do that? I love this quote by Albert Einstein. Any fool can complicate things. It takes a genius to simplify them, right? It's not rocket science. And I've been a rocket scientist, so I'm here to tell you it's not, although rocket science is not that complicated, it's one equation. Rocket science it's not rocket science, it's personality science. So let's talk a little bit about the science of B.A.N.K, and let's talk a little bit about what we're doing here, right? So personality science for personality codes. So the blueprint, the action, nurturing knowledge, just remember B.A.N.K, and then you can spell it out. And anybody familiar with Hippocrates? Over 2,000 years ago, right? In 400 BC, long time ago, Hippocrates said, if I know your temperament, I can heal your physical body, right? That started it. And the psychologist grabbed that 4 temperaments and they ran with it. And then they made it more complicated, maybe a 4x4 matrix in MBTI, right? Anybody ever taken a personality test? Yeah, I see a lot of head nods, right? Simon, look, that was such a happy look there, Simon. Yeah, I take one. So 20 years in the military was very fond of personality tests. I've taken a lot of personality tests in my time, and I've done all of the classes after the personality test. And I will tell you, in the hundreds, probably thousands of people that I took personality tests with, I only saw one person ever change their behavior because of a personality test and the training that came with it. When I teach this class, I usually do it in a 2-day endeavor. After the first day, people go home, and the next morning I'm like, well, what did you learn yesterday? And people have already shifted relationships by going home that first night and practicing it. This is why after 5.5 years, I am still doing this, because I no longer have to wait 20 years to see a rocket get launched and a satellite go on orbit. I can now see change happen overnight. So we have a joke in our community. We say that B.A.N.K has the missing link, and the missing link to all of that psychology for a salesperson, the missing link is biology, spelled B-U-Y-ology. Come on, that was funny. No? No, all right. We say in our community that you can crack the personality code and take it to the bank. Anybody see Da Vinci or read the books? Yeah? Really creative of the author, he came up with this idea of the CRYPTEX. It didn't exist until he wrote it down. And the CRYPTEX is a safe, a cylinder safe, right? And inside the safe is this papyrus. And in the Da Vinci Code, on the papyrus is the secret to the Holy Grail. The secret to the Holy Grail. Now, if you put the wrong code in, that papyrus is wrapped around a vial of vinegar. If you put the wrong code in, that vial of vinegar cracks, that secret to the Holy Grail dissolves. The papyrus is gone. Now, I want you to imagine from now on, every person that you are walking up to has one of these little CRYPTEXes hanging over their shoulder. And from the moment you start walking up to them, you're dialing in a code. And the question is, are you dialing in a code that will connect and give you the secret to the Holy Grail, which is for us connection itself? Or are you dialing in a wrong code? And are you cracking that vial of vinegar? And are you dissolving the papyrus and losing the connection? I always like to tell a story about a friend of mine who lives in Sweden. And when he and I were in class, I sat next to him because he was a real fun guy. And I thought, we're going to have a good time in this class together. And as that first day of training went on, he got quieter and quieter and quieter. And I'm like, hey man, what's going on? And he was like, my son at 6.5 years old to me said, Daddy, why are you a liar? And the reality is he wasn't lying to his son. What was happening was he would say, hey, we're going to leave in 20 minutes. What he really meant was we're probably leaving sometime in the next hour. High action. And his son's a high blueprint. And his son said, 20 minutes? In 15 minutes, I'm by the door with all my stuff ready to go, ready to walk out the door. Different values, different personality styles. It has an impact, not just on our sales, but on the people that we're closest to. I'm happy to say that my friend went home to Sweden and he started treating his son like a blueprint, and that relationship has healed. When I saw him at the last conference that we did live, which was not this year, he came up to me and he was like, I got to show you something. And he pulls out his briefcase and he pulls out this little handwritten card and he hands it to me. And I'm like, this is so cute. He's like, this is my son. And I open the card and it says, I love you. His son's now 10.5 years old. And it was the first time he'd ever said to his dad, I love you. That's pretty extreme. You're not going to run into things that bad unless you're not having those kinds of relationships with your families. So please, 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 if the only thing you hear today is this, please, please meet people where they are. I don't care if you get nothing out of the bank. I don't care if you don't remember the personality codes. If you get nothing else, please meet people where they are. It's hard work, not gonna lie, but it is worth it. It is worth it for all of your relationships. Tony Robbins says, let your prospect determine your presentation. If there are 4 personality styles, how many presentations should you have? Just hold up your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4. Yes, I love it. At least 4. If you're doing public speaking in front of groups of people and you don't know in advance what the average code is, you might want a 5th script that includes all 4 personality styles. If all you're doing is meeting one-on-one with people, you just need 4 scripts. Okay. The most common mistake that we see is that 1 out of every 4 conversations, we're hitting the right script, the right code, because we're speaking in our code and we speak our codes very clearly. The problem is we don't usually speak the other codes quite so clearly. What I do know is that people who have been in sales for more than 5 years are usually hitting the right code most of the time. What I then see the struggle being is, how do I teach that to my team? Right? Do you let them flounder around for 5 years and learn it the way you did? Or do you find a system that helps you teach them the soft skills so that they can shorten that timeline a little bit? So here we are back to 4 languages. And if you can speak all 4 languages, all of your communications when you're first meeting somebody and when your relationship goes into crisis can be more effective. Let's talk about the system. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about each of the 4 personality styles. And I'm going to give you a couple of ideas. Has anybody ever heard think outside the box? Yeah? I'm going to use that metaphorical box to give you a framework to think about a personality style. I'm going to give you the values that that person is prioritizing to get to that personality style and that communication style. And I'm going to show you the most effective way to greet that personality style. Okay, are we ready? Here we go. First one, blueprints. Blueprints are inside the box. They like their box. They do not want to be outside the box. They want to stay inside the box. Blueprints are risk averse. They are also very budget conscious. They're very budget conscious. If you're talking to a blueprint and they say, no, and the conversation up until that point, you've been like, yeah, they're in. And then you get to a price discussion and they go, no. You need to ask further questions because the no is probably not right now because it's not in my budget. A no for a blueprint does not necessarily mean no forever. It might mean just no for right now because it's not in my budget. So you have to ask some more questions. Wow, I thought you were really enjoying our discussion about this. You seem to really be interested in this. In fact, you asked for pricing information. Tell me more about that. Why no now, right? And then you may need to help them get it into their budget, right? Do you offer pricing plans? Is there something else that you can do to help them if price becomes an option? Now, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of us instinctively want to discount our services at the first objection. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. 2 of our personality styles are very concerned about their budget, but if they're interested and they see the value, they will get it in the budget. The other 2 personality styles are the kind that will just go, here's my credit card. Okay. Blueprints do like a discount. So if you have friends who are always like, hey, let's go to dinner early so we can get the early bird specials, you might know a blueprint. You might know a blueprint. Okay. If you have somebody who you know who is like, oh no, the speed limit is 55 and we go 55, you might know a blueprint. If I say, finish this sentence, rules are made to be, and you said followed, you might be a blueprint. Okay, let's look at the values that a blueprint is prioritizing. you will notice that the theme here is things that reduce risk in my life, right? If there is stability in the system, if there is structure, if there are systems in place, planning, all of these things reduce risk. So if you're talking to a blueprint about your services, your goods, your whatever, and it's a blueprint personality, if you can offer a money back guarantee, you've just reduced the risk for a blueprint. None of our other personality styles really care about that money back guarantee except for the blueprint. The blueprint really cares. If you see somebody with a business card and on their name, they have a list of certifications behind their names, not degrees, but certifications behind their names, they might be high blueprint. Nobody else really cares that much about those credentials. High knowledge people will care about degrees, but blueprints care about all the credentials. So if they have more than one, chances are they're high blueprint. Okay. When you meet a blueprint, they want a socially accepted, normal greeting. In the business world, in the Western business world especially, that's a firm handshake with appropriate eye contact. So when you're meeting a blueprint, firm handshake, appropriate eye contact, let go and continue your conversation. A blueprint wants you to start off with some small talk that's not too personal. The weather's good. What do you think about the weather? How's your weekend? Can get a little iffy. Might be a little too personal for them. But they want socially appropriate small talk before you get to business. Can you think of somebody who might be high blueprint in your life? Yeah, Judith's nodding her head. Okay, any questions about the blueprint personality? All right, we're going to move on to the action personality. The action personality explodes the box. Let's be real, they didn't see the box. They didn't know there was a box, and if they did see it, they didn't care about it. They don't care, right? They don't care about the box. Actions are going to be the people when you walk into a networking event, they're going to be standing under the spotlight with a group of people around them. Never get it in action, the microphone, you'll never get it back. Because they love to be the center of attention. They love to be the center of attention. Let's look at some of the things that they are valuing and prioritizing. Now, when I am teaching people who are in direct sales or multi-level marketing, one of the things I tell them is that this is the personality that doesn't care so much about your good as they do about the opportunity. So if you're in a one-on-one discussion with this person, and they're expressing any interest, it's all about telling them about the VIP experience that you have. These people want you to give them options. If you're talking to a blueprint and you get to the point of talking price and stuff, and they're asking questions that are leading you down that path, the blueprint now thinks you're the expert and they want you to tell them the package. Just say, this is my most popular package, and I think it will be perfect for you. But when you're talking to an action personality, they want the options. And so what I usually do with an action personality is I'll be like, so here is my budget tier option. Here is the option that most people will choose. And this is my VIP option. And the actions want the VIP option. They want the red carpet treatment. They want to be picked up in a limousine. They want the valet parking. They want it all. And ladies and gentlemen, they're going to pull up the credit card and pay for it. To them, it is worth it. But the minute you start talking about discounts with an action, you stop speaking their language and they're out of here. You will lose them. What's great about actions is they know a lot of other actions. And if you get into their network with the other actions, you can get a lot of business. You can get a lot of business. Actions do not want a boring handshake. They want a little energy in your greeting, right? So we say they want a high five. Maybe a fist bump. When you're meeting an action for the first time, lean in a little bit. Get a little energy in your voice. Show some excitement. Ask them questions about themselves. What did you do that was exciting this weekend? They want to talk about it. The blueprint does not want to hear about exciting because exciting is risky. The action loves the risk. They love the risk. Can you think of somebody in your experience that is an action personality? Yeah? Okay. Any questions about the action personality? These guys are a lot of fun. So have some fun with them. Okay. Now let's talk about the nurturers. So the blueprints are inside the box. The actions explode the box. And the nurturers recycle the box. The nurturers are recycling the box. Nurturers' most important value is relationships. If you have a nurturer in your team or in your community, they're going to be the ones that don't want to deal with conflict. They're going to be the ones that value their relationships over the dollar. They're going to be the ones that are wanting to take care of everybody. A lot of times when I teach this class, people are like, oh, nurturers are the good ones. And I'm like, nurturers can be little dictators. Okay. I sometimes run into groups of people who want to vilify the actions, who really are a fun group of people. And then they want to put nurturers on a pedestal. But I want to tell you, political correctness taken too far, nurturers, right? Free love, nurturers. Taking care of everybody, nurturers, right? There has to be a balance. There has to be a balance. Any of the personalities, sets of values taken too far can go wrong. So please don't put any of them on a pedestal. Please see them for the humans that they are. Okay. Here's the values that the nurturers are prioritizing. If you are in competition for a nurturing client, the number one thing you can do to put yourself up with a nurturer is to be involved in a nonprofit. And donating to a nonprofit is cool. Being involved with a nonprofit is even better. Very good, Judith. I love that. Bonus points for being involved in a nonprofit that they love, or that's associated with something that they love. Okay. Ethics, harmony, morality, personal growth, significance. When you have a nurturer on your team or in your family, they're going to be very tone sensitive. When you're talking to them, if you are stern, you are going to hurt their feelings. If you're talking to them and you need to resolve something with them, you're going to have to most effectively talk around the subject and come to it from the other side. You have to warm them up first. Then talk about whatever the problem is, and then give them some more warmth. Can anybody guess how a nurturer wants to be greeted?
Hug.
Oh, yes. Yes. A hug. A nurturer wants a hug. Okay, so nurturers, we got to have a talk because nurturers, 3 out of 4 personality types do not want a hug. When you first meet them, they don't want a hug. They don't want a hug. In fact, you are physically hurting at least one of the personality types. Please, please, please stop hugging everybody when you first meet them. And some of you are smirking because you're like, right on. And some of you are like, oh no, I'm dying inside. Okay. For the rest of you who aren't nurturers, what I want to say is, this is not a hug. Pat, pat, pat. There is no patting and hugging. Patting is an expression of dominance. Okay? If you get sucked into a nurturer's hug and they're meeting you for the first time and you're like, oh, it's a hug, right? The easiest way to get them to let go is to give a little rub or a squeeze and release, because that's usually the nurture sign for, okay, it's time to let go now. If you know you're meeting with nurturer and you know they're going to come in for a hug and you really just cannot do a hug today, 2 things you can do. One is you can do what I call the hand hug. Reach out with one hand and then put your other hand over top of theirs. 2-handed hug. Okay. The other thing you can do is put your hand out and then put your other hand on their arm. If you're meeting a nurturer, try to give them some of that extra warmth. Warm your tone up, warm the connection up with your greeting. Some of you are nurturers, I can tell. Can you think of a nurturer? Everybody got a nurturer in mind? Somebody in your community that's a strong nurturer, okay. Any questions about nurturers? Okay, we got one more personality style to go, and it is the knowledge personality style. Blueprints are inside the box. Actions explode the box. Nurturers recycle the box. And knowledges engineered the box. Your knowledges are going to be some of the smartest people in the room. Unfortunately, they rarely get the recognition they deserve because the actions are a lot louder than they are. Recognition is so important, ladies and gentlemen. It is so important for keeping our people involved in our businesses, in our families. Please make sure that you're looking to give recognition, especially to your knowledge personalities, where you may lose them. So, smartest people in the room. Frequently, these are the people who aren't quite sure how to dress or miss dressing appropriately. Fashion disasters, if you will. Your blueprint is going to show up very professionally dressed, probably no name brands because name brands are expensive. Your action is going to show up very professionally dressed, taken up a notch, right? So their attire, a blueprint is going to be perfectly coordinated, and action is going to be perfectly coordinated, and it's going to be up a notch. There's going to be something signature about what they wear. They're also going to wear the name brand clothing, the name brand car. They're going to have those name brands. Your nurturers aren't going to resist the urge to be comfortable, and they will tend to have very comfortable clothes. Now, they're going to try to make an effort because they don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable about the way they're dressed, but they're going to lean towards the soft and the comfortable clothes. Your knowledge personalities, they don't care about what they're wearing usually. You will occasionally find a knowledge who is dressed to the nines. It's usually because they're married to an action and the action is dressing them. Okay. Or they're high knowledge and high action. And so the high action piece of them insists that they be dressed to the nines. Think about some of our CEOs in the high-tech companies who wear a black shirt and black pants every single day. Don't care. If I wear black pants and black shirt every single day, it's one less decision I have to make in the day, which gives me more time to make other decisions and to do other things. Everybody sees Stephen over there nodding his head. That makes perfect sense to him. These are the values that a knowledge is prioritizing. You might be high knowledge if you have an Apple phone and an Android phone because they both do different things. You might be a high knowledge if you dive really deep into a subject before you're willing to move on to this next subject. I have a very high knowledge in my life, and I made the mistake of going with him once to the hardware store, and he needed a washer. And we're standing in the aisle looking at the washers, and he is examining every single washer to determine the properties of the washer to find out which one would be the best washer for what he needed. I was like, great, you do that. I'm going to go get the rest of the stuff. So I go and get the other 4 things I needed to get at the store, and I come back and he's still examining the washers. It has to be the right washer. Your knowledges will not make a decision unless they feel like they have enough knowledge on the topic, and they will not process 2 things at once. There's no parallel processing happening. Please don't ever use the word wrong in their presence. Now, that being said, a knowledge will absolutely change their mind when they are given evidence that will allow them to change their mind. Just don't tell them they're wrong. And never expect them to say they're wrong. I have a very good friends within our community who are married. He's high knowledge, she's high nurturing. And I'm giving this class, and she stands up and she's a nurturer, and she's like, he hasn't told me he loves me since the day we married. And he stands up and he looks at her and he goes, I told you on the day we married that I love you. If anything changes, I will let you know. Okay, so what's the greeting for knowledge? Live long and prosper. Okay, so you can't really do that in a, like, nobody does that in a business setting. Hand them your business card. Knowledges do not like to be touched by people they don't know. Once you get to the point of know, like, and trust, and you've built some intimacy into the relationship, they may be okay with some touching going on. Nurturers, probably not a hug. Knowledges know perfectly well that the appropriate greeting in a professional setting is a handshake. Give them the handshake and let go quickly. Don't make them linger over it. I have a very good friend here in Colorado Springs, Melissa. She is high knowledge. And I knew this the very first time I met her because I had gone to her Facebook page and I had been like, you're high knowledge, I can tell. And so when I met her the first time, I got to the coffee shop early. I got my notebook out, put my pen out. I had my cup of tea next to me, and I'm just sitting there. When she comes in, she stops like, I don't know, halfway across the room, leans in a little bit and says, are you Jennifer? I was like, yes, you must be Melissa. Yes, I am. Do you want to put your stuff down and go get a cup of coffee or tea or something to drink? She's like, I would love that. When she realized that I was not getting up to give her a hug, her shoulders dropped. Her shoulders dropped. Isn't that what we want for the people that we're meeting for the first time? Don't we want their shoulders to drop because they feel comfortable for us? I'm not asking you to change your personality. I'm asking you to flex when you first meet somebody and when your relationship goes into crisis so that you can create connection and start building that relationship language. Don't be who you're not, but be willing to speak French to the French person. Once you get to know, like, and trust, you can build that relationship language. Who do you know that's knowledge? Everybody got a knowledge, somebody who seems very high knowledge in your mind? Any questions about the knowledge personality? Okay. So the question is, can you tell what your bank code is? Do you know what's your first code and do you know what your last code is? So that link that's in the chat or that was sent out earlier, you can use that link to crack your code. You'll get a personality report back. So you'll actually get a little bit of words about what's going on. I want you to know that the most important letter, you'll get 4 letters in order. The most important letter is the first letter of somebody's code. The next most important letter is the last letter of their code. Please do not speak with them in that last letter. It is last for a reason. It's last for a reason. Does anybody want to try and guess what my bank code is?
Action.
Nice, Wall. Thank you. Action. Anybody else? Simon?
K-A-B-N.
K-A-B-N. Nice. Anybody else? I am actually a nurturing knowledge blueprint action. So when I do the class, I have a written test that's sentences that you get a score of 1 to 5 on. And so you get a total of possible points, 25 points for each letter. I am a 25-point nurturer, 23-point knowledge. I'm sorry. Yes, 23-point knowledge, 22-point blueprint, and I'm an 18-point action. Now, I will tell you, I did not start that way. I did not start that way. And I have gotten a lot better at coding other people and speaking in their languages. And I try to do my presentation in all 4 codes. So when I did the blueprint part, I was a lot more contained, a lot calmer in my demeanor. When I did the action part, I got a little bit more excited. I leaned in a little bit. I talked a little louder. When I did the nurturing part, I talked warmer. And when I did the knowledge part, I became very analytical in my tone. It matters. It makes a difference. Okay, that is the meat of my presentation to you guys today. One of the most common questions I get is, well, how do I know what people's codes are? So here's the deal, people. I have cards that I use every time I meet somebody to have them let me know what their code is. Now, I've been doing this for 5.5 years. I can crack most people's codes as they're walking up to me with about 94% accuracy. About 94% accuracy. What you wear, especially your shoes, the car you drive, the profession you're in, what you choose to talk about, how you talk about it, what's your tone. When I can see your space behind you, when you have invited me into your home, And make no mistake, if you're on Zoom and you have a backdrop that's not a video representation of some kind, you have invited the person into your room, your home, your space. Yes, Dean. Dean, by any chance, are you a knowledge first? Do you think?
That's what I picked.
Okay. The reason I said that is because Dean has what looks like some collections of stuff and books. It's, there's a lot of stuff in his background. And knowledges tend to have a lot of stuff in their backgrounds. My guess is that Sharon might have a little blueprint in her, but I think she might be nurturing first. Yes? No?
I haven't done the code yet, but that was kind of my guess too.
Okay. So I'm looking at backgrounds to know. I'm looking at what you're wearing, what you're presenting yourself on the screen. I'm listening for your tone. I'm also listening, what do you choose to talk about? Are you talking about your family? Do you give maybe a little bit more information than most people would the first time I meet you? You might be a nurturer. Do you go straight to business? You might be an action. Do you use the word fascinating a lot? You might be a knowledge. Okay. So there are clues that people will give you as to which personality type they are. Any questions? Yes, Simon.
Sure. First of all, thank you. This was very informative. So, so what I hear you say is we try to crack a code as quickly as possible when we're first meeting a person. And we've just talked about different ways that we can do that, what they choose to talk about, what they were, maybe cyberstalk them and see what's on their Facebook page, like whatever we can find out. And then you talked about really tailoring your behavior and your presentation towards that personality type. So in terms of presentation to the different personality types, would you recommend really going into slides versus video versus document versus verbal presentation, changing language of actually how services are being presented? Like, is that the level of personalization that you'd recommend for businesses to do? Yeah.
The higher ticket item you are selling, well, so how fast do you want to connect with your clients? How fast do you want to connect with your prospects? How fast do you want to connect with the people you're talking to? The deeper you go into their personality, the faster you're going to connect, and the sooner you can get to building that relationship language and having a relationship. B.A.N.K is not going to replace time to develop a relationship, right? What B.A.N.K will do is shorten the amount of time between I just met you and now I'm building a relationship with you. Until I get to know, like, and trust, I'm still in that introductory phase and I cannot build a relationship with you. B.A.N.K will shorten that timeline so that you can get to know, like, and trust and start building a relationship quicker. But building the relationship still takes all of the effort that it's always taken. It takes time, it takes exposure, it takes care and attention, right? How are you following up? How many times are you following up? How quickly are you following up? Are you always texting them? Do you use a variety of means of following up? I can help you close more sales. B.A.N.K can help you close more sales, and it can help you do it faster. It does take practice. It does take practice.
Jen, Kip put the question into the chat. How long did it take you to get good at this?
So Kip, it depends on how serious you're going to be about getting good at it, right? So it does take practice. And I will tell you that it took me about 3 months. And for about 2 weeks of that, I did some really strange activities. Like I would go to the mall this was back when there were still malls, right? And so I would go to the mall and I would sit myself down somewhere where there was a large flow of traffic. And I would literally sit there and I go, I bet you're a knowledge because of X, Y, and Z. I bet you're a blueprint because of X, Y, and Z. I bet you're like, I would just start coding people as they were walking by me. Every single person that I met and all of my family and friends got handed the cards. And as they're coding themselves with the cards, I'm thinking in my head, I think you're a blankety blank, blank, blank. Let's see what your cards say. So I deliberately went out and practiced the skills. And then I practiced speaking in the languages. It doesn't, I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was wondering if you saw part 2 of Kip's question, because I think that's great too. He said, if I'm one personality type, do I get along with certain personality types easier? Will I have a more difficult time with certain types?
Yes. You will get along with your first letter a lot easier, and you will get along with your last letter a lot less. So my last letter is action. Shortly after I got into the program, I was on a 4-hour plane trip and I was in the window seat, and right next to me was a high action. And he wanted to talk. And I was exhausted when I walked off the plane. But I immediately thought to myself, oh, this is a great opportunity to practice. Wasn't what I wanted to do, but it was a great opportunity to practice, right? High nurturer. So if he had wanted to talk about his family, if he wanted to build he wanted to talk about how awesome he was and how cool this trip was. And he was on he's on the first leg of a trip to Las Vegas because he's meeting his buds and they're going to do all these things and buy all this stuff. And it was interesting. Yeah, Michelle.
So it's not about first impressions. It's about long-term relationship building. And how do you recommend the greetings during COVID when we can't really touch anybody or even see anybody's face?
So in this day and age, it's even more important to really focus on your tone of voice and your body language, right? They can't see, especially in public, they can't see the bottom half of your face. But still, when you smile, your eyes smile, right? If you lean in a little bit, that expresses more energy. If you stand straight and you make sure that there's at least 6 feet between you, you're following the rules. And action's okay with doing like a elbow bump because that's pretty close to a fist bump. Most of the personality types are digging it. Nurturers are dying because they want their hugs. Nurturers are dying. So if you have a nurturer in your family, please give them lots of extra hugs because the rest of the world is killing them right now. Lots of extra hugs. Any other questions?
I have a question. So is the premises is ideally we mirror back their personality versus trying to balance certain energy. We're trying to actually match their energies and their values, even though they might not necessarily be, our personality. So do people have how does one reconcile that without coming across like I'm trying to pretend to be an A and I'm really not going to do a good job showing up as an A?
I'll be honest with you, Simon. In spite of how I come across in class, in normal, I don't do really great with A's either, right? It's a struggle for me. It's my last code. One of the things that you can do if you know that you're going to be working with some high action people, but your last code is action, is have something on you that is Name brand. Okay. For me, I carry a Mont Blanc pen. Pretty much most people who are interested in brands know what a Mont Blanc pen. My Mont Blanc pen was a gift from my father. So for me, it's not about the fact that it's a Mont Blanc pen. It's about the fact that it came from my father. But the action is going to see the Mont Blanc. Okay? It's not about saying, I'm exactly like you. It's about saying, I'm enough like you that we can build a relationship. Actions do not expect the rest of us to be hitting their stride. They just don't. They know better. There aren't that many of them in the world, right? They see the other three personalities around and they know we're not like them. They want us to make an effort. Just make the effort. It's one of the reasons I wear red lipstick, because an action will see the red lipstick and go, oh, she's making the effort. They look at my clothes and they go, that's really blueprint. Don't know about that. But the lipstick, got it. And none of the other personality types really care about the fact that I'm wearing red lipstick. The nurturers would like me to wear a little warmer, friendlier color, but it's okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? Yeah, Karen.
Karen, Simon, I'm an action, so you can practice on me.
There you go.
I'm not the full extreme, but yes, I'm definitely an action.
That's great.
I love that. Judith, you had a question.
I do. A lot of first interactions are happening over the phone, so no visual clues. So is there a key question that based on the answer you can discern which four personality types they might be? Yes.
The question is why, right? So if you first met me and you asked me a little bit about my history and you heard that I was a military officer, you would go, oh, blueprint. Now ask me why I went into the military. Well, I went into the military because my sister died when we were in high school, and I was worried about taking care of my parents and making sure that they knew I could take care of myself. That's all relationship, right? That's all nurturing. Probably couldn't have made it done well in the military if I hadn't had some high blueprint in me, but the why is all relationship. So why is one of my favorite questions. So if you're meeting with somebody who is business for the first time over the phone, so the first thing I would do is if I know I'm meeting you, I'm checking your social media. I'm checking your LinkedIn, I'm checking your Facebook, I'm checking your Clubhouse, I'm checking your Instagram, I'm checking it, right? If they have the most beautiful Instagram ever with the tiles in exactly the right order, and the pictures are gorgeous, I'm thinking high action or you hired somebody, right? If I go to your Facebook profile and you're talking about your family and your kids and what's going on, I'm thinking nurture. My friend who was high knowledge, Melissa, the one I told you guys about, when I went to her Facebook page, she was talking about all the things that she knew about essential oils. Her knowledge of essential oils is so extensive. And oh, by the way, she has the research to back it. So when she says something, she knows that there's some Western world research paper out there on the topic. She's not just pulling things from books at random. She's actually gone out and found the white papers and the research papers on it, right? So I'm going and I'm checking their social media first to figure out what do I think they are. And then if I think I know what they are, then I'm going to ask questions to see if where they are right this moment matches what their social media says. Because people do pay other people to do their social media.
Jen, are there like transitional sentences or in the courses that you teach or seminars where you say for a knowledge person, these are kind of key phrases that one would include in a sales presentation on when making the ask for a sale or to buy. I don't know if you have like a bank or some resources around that as well.
Are you asking specifically about when you go to ask for the sale, or are you talking about the whole sales process as a whole?
I guess both, but there's, there are in any sales process, there's stages to get to the next stage, right? And I would assume that for a nurturer, the coming to an agreement to move to the next stage would involve different language than it would for a knowledge person, for example. So I'm just wondering if within the system that you're teaching, there are things that help to say, have like specific language that would help facilitate based on personality, I guess. So
the last class we teach is called Power Scripting, and it is 3 days of learning to write about your product, service, or good in all 4 languages, and then a 5th script in all 4 languages together. So you walk out with 5 scripts specifically about that. There are key words. And so when you guys get your personality profile, you're going to get in there, what are the tripwires and the triggers? What are the things that make somebody of that personality type go, oh, I gotta buy? And what are the things that make them go, I'm not buying that from you, right? So that's in your, you'll get those for your personality type in your report. So yes, we do have that information. We have research behind it to say, yes, those are the words that work, and these are the things that we know will kill the sale. So think about it, Simon, right? So if you are talking to a blueprint and you know they avoid risk, what would be a good transition based on what you do? What would be a good transition for them?
Are you putting me on the spot?
I did. I totally put you on the spot.
You said a knowledge person?
Blueprint
person. Well, I would probably center around, you said risk mitigation. So, I don't know, like something around like you have to, the default future right now is X, and with our work together, we can mitigate risk. We have a very clear and concise process that follows the structure that, if at any point you're not happy or you're feeling you're not getting the value out of it, you can cancel or X out, and we like speaking to whatever their concerns might be. Versus an action person, where I would go like, oh my God, like, can you believe what we can do with this? We go 10X and then the moon is the next thing, whatever, like really like that, I guess.
Did you see Karen perk up? She like went, what? She heard 10X and she was like, what?
We're going to the moon. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, it takes something to actually get sophisticated enough within our own business to be able to be that specific and be able to be that tailored, versus just here's our default contract or here's our default landing page or whatever.
So here's a little exercise for you. And for anybody who's interested in maybe taking this to the next level, spend 5 minutes a day, every work day, and focus on one personality, right? So on Monday, focus on blueprints, spend 5 minutes thinking about how would I talk to a blueprint about my product, service, or good. And on Tuesdays, think about actions. Wednesdays are nurturers, Thursdays are knowledge. And on Friday, if you're a speaker, think about how do I talk about what I do in all 4 languages at once, right? If you have something that is written that you would like to know the code of, send it to me and I will put it into our artificial intelligence and I will tell you the code for it. Artificial intelligence is such a wonderful thing. I love it. So nerdy. It's awesome.
That's a great offer, Jen. Cindy, I see your question. Where can we take the test at? There is a link in the chat, kind of a little bit more towards the beginning. It's www.crackmycode.com. Oh, Simon just popped it in again. And Terry asked, how do we learn about your classes?
So right now we have pre-recorded virtual training that's available. And if you'd like to, I didn't want to turn this into a sales presentation. I wanted this to be education for you guys. I'm of course always happy to talk about the opportunity to work with me. So if you'd like to have that conversation, I can put my email in there and we can schedule some time to talk about it. Is that okay, Simon? Okay.
Please.
Will there be hugs? Yes, if we're in person, there can be hugs. There's not always hugs.
This was so interesting, Jen. And anyways, I know we'll be looking at all the people in our lives a little bit differently moving forward. And I'm really excited to apply this. I'm questioning how often I want to just interact with people from my, lens of things, and how kind of self-centered that is, even though like my intentions are, to be warm and connect and all those things about, us, what are they called? Relationship people, the ends.
The
nurturers, yes. But that's not everyone's style, and that actually could be turning people off. I'm like, oh. So thank you very much. And
I just want to remind everybody, if you hear nothing else, please meet the people that you're meeting. Meet them where they are. Make the effort to meet them where they are. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, which means we have to slow down enough to pay attention, right? And to look for those clues like you were talking about.
It's really interesting. The number one outcome from our class, especially right off the bat, is that people start actually listening. Partly because they know what to listen for now. Like they understand what to listen for. You guys have some more things to listen for now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you too. It was wonderful having you. Thank you everyone so much for coming, and we will be together again in a few weeks, Network in Action members, the second week of the month, and we'll be letting you know what's coming in our future business labs. And thank you, Jen, for joining us. And thank you, Stuart and Susan and Cindy as well. And we wish you all a great evening. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you
Take
all.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you.